And welcome on back, everyone, to another episode of Streaming with the Mouse. Today we're going to be talking about the Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 5, Return of the Mandalorian, or better yet, The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 1, or Season 3, Episode 0. So get ready, and you're listening to Streaming with the Mouse. And welcome on back, everyone, to another episode of Streaming with the Mouse, episode 114. My name is Clifton Paul Robinson, and joining me, as always, is my sidekick, my go-to, my payload to my Mandalorian. Did I say your name right? I forget.
Is it I don't know.
Paley?
Pelimoto.
Pelly. The Pelly to my Mando.
What's up, Cliff? How are you, buddy?
I wanted to see the reaction to that one. Hey,
I was like, who's he talking about?
She's fine.
She's fine.
She sleeps with Jawas. She sleeps with Jawas. I think
good for her.
They're furry.
They're furry, though.
That was a piece of Star Wars information. I know a lot of Star Wars information. I don't think I needed that little piece, though.
I'm glad we got it.
Are you?
Yeah, why not? Yeah. I want to
know. Yeah, sure. I mean, why not? How are you doing? Are you ready to talk about one of I dubbed this the best piece of Star Wars since Disney has acquired Star Wars?
I put this as the second best hour of Star Wars that Disney has put out since.
Can I guess the first? Can I guess the first?
Yeah.
The last hour of Rogue One.
No.
Really?
That's my favorite movie. That's my favorite movie Disney's done. Last episode of season 2 of Mandalorian.
Okay. I would still put this above
1A, 1B. This was perfect.
I see why you would say that, because the episode, the season finale of Mando season 2 was just incredible, and it had a lot of implications going forward. I think that was great for a different thing, because this hour of Star Wars was just like real legit, like George Lucas Star Wars, I think is a better way to say it.
Nothing sucks more than having a show called The Book of Boba Fett and the best episode not even featuring him one time.
But I want to talk about that as well. And it's a theory I have had. I don't know if it's a theory. It is something I have had for a thought I have had for a long time. We should technically have been treating this whole time, and I think we've talked about this a long time ago, probably during season 2 of Mando, is the Book of Boba Fett probably wasn't going to be its own thing. It was probably going to be an interlude or like a fake Mando season 3. This kind of gives the confirmation to it. At least in my...
I don't know. I think we're too deep in the other stuff. I think we're too deep in the other stuff. I'm glad we took a break from the other stuff, because this was way more interesting than anything that's happened so far in Boba Fett, and I mean that in the nicest way possible. This blew everything that they've done at this point out of the water. It was fantastic, and it had literally, Grogu was mentioned more in this than Boba Fett was. Boba Fett's name came up one time in this show.
Well, here's how I explained it to someone the other day. We were talking in a group chat. The Book of Boba Fett is an interlude to The Mandalorian. It's like one of those things where it's like, you did this, you've completed a major arc story, now we're going to fade away to a side character, to Boba Fett. But then this episode, so say you watched everything in order. Say you started with Mando season 1 to where we are now. It would be like we saw the first part of Mando's story. Now we pan to another important character, and then we slowly go back. We do another interlude from the interlude to to Mando, to Din, seeing what he's up to and how it converges the story before we then pan back to Boba Fett and then back to Mando season 3, which comes out later this year.
I just want Din Djarin. That's it. That's all I want. Well, no,
I will say,
that's all I want Grogu. But
it's very funny because people were, and these are the people I don't listen to. It's like, oh, this is the Mando is the Boba Fett we wanted, and I'm like, kinda. I'm like, that's what you expected Boba Fett to be. But then if they had Boba Fett doing what Mando was doing, you'd just be saying, oh, they're copying the Mandalorian. You can't win.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: you can't win, and Boba Fett is literally a great example right now of character development.
Sure.
And
that's not to say I don't like Boba Fett. It's just I like Din Djarin more as a character, and that's okay. But I can appreciate I mean Boba Fett was one of my favorite characters growing up, and I say that just like it kind of makes sense. Like I really like the action figure. I thought it was cool. I liked making up stories in my head of how he got out of the Sarlacc pit. I liked having him go on adventures with the action figures of like in between episode 4 and 5 and 5 and 6. And even after that, my own imagination getting out of the Sarlacc pit and like maybe going after Han Solo. Like I used to play with those things, and I'm fine with the story they're telling. But I think it's okay to be like, you know what? I like Boba Fett. I appreciate him. I like Din Djarin more as a character because I think he's had some great.
And I think that is a-okay. I think, yes. But you know what? The other thing with Mando, with Din, he looks cool as well.
He looks badass,
and he's kind of a mix of like what Jango and Boba Fett were. Well, Din is Jango Fett, like the really shiny, sleek armor with the OG Boba personality. I think is a good way to put it. Like he's very sleek, shiny, and new, but he's very mysterious and that. But I think character development aside, we're going to talk a lot about this episode. Incredible episode. Quickly, one piece, just a single incredible piece of news. Percy Jackson and the Olympians officially greenlit for Disney Plus. Filming starting this summer, coming to Disney Plus in 2023 at some time. My childhood's complete is kind of.
Well, I remember anything from the first book I read? Nope.
Well, I am currently reading the Trials of Apollo series, so The Lightning Thief is still one of my all-time favorites, and Rick Riordan is directly involved in all the writing, and Disney Plus even announced it as a extremely close adaptation to the books. I now believe that is very possible. I think the best example of it is a series of unfortunate events on Netflix, which if you've read the books and then watched the show, it's almost like a one-to-one carbon cutout.
Yeah.
Which they did an incredible job. That's, I think.
Yeah, it's actually a good show.
I thought Neil Patrick Harris really hit a home run on that one.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that, though, as it goes along. That if July is the filming start, we're going to be getting casting soon for the big three. Really cool to see, and we'll talk about it more. But Cam, it's time. It's time to talk about the incredible episode as he holds up Grogu. I think is so realistic. It's kind of creepy.
Ridiculous.
It's almost creepy in itself. Where's mine? I don't know where mine is.
It's ridiculous. This one costs $20. This looks better than the $300 statue.
Where was that from?
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, Target, Walmart.
That's a little terrifying. It's a little terrifying. It's like too realistic almost.
They have one that now that his mouth is open, so he's smiling a little bit. I kind of want that one too, but I was told I already have this one, so I'm not allowed to get that other one. But we'll see what happens.
That's when you buy it in private. That's what you get for. That's the present you get yourself for shoveling all the snow.
You know,
we're getting.
We'll see. Maybe it gets over as a Christmas or birthday present this year. We'll see.
There you go. To yourself, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
So we start this episode. We're going to go through the same thing. Top 5. It's really easy. There might honestly only be really top 3, but we will go through this, and we're starting with the return of the Mandalorian, and in the most interesting way possible, as he walks into a meat cooler, a meat packaging plant.
Very funny, because I did not expect this location.
I did not expect this location at all. A meat packaging plant with dogs running it, with the dog people running it. And they walk in on such an old school way of doing it in the all the mob bosses playing poker. Din says he's looking for someone, and they're like, oh, that's not him. He goes, oh, you sure? And he pulls out the fob that starts pinging excessively. And then he say, oh, we don't know who this guy is. And he pulls out the little hollow picture, and it's the guy that's been talking to him, pretending, and all hell breaks loose as the dog bites him. So it's very in character. It's a little too in character as the fight breaks out, and as Din is doing all right, as 3 gets bit, he whips out the Darksaber in one of the most cool scenes and just goes to town, but not totally, as he actually injures his leg doing this, but goes through. He does the line, I can bring you in warmer, I can bring you in cold, gets the guy on the table, and just in his fit of anger takes the Darksaber and slams him down on the table.
It was an awesome fight scene, and it was awesome for multiple reasons, because he wasn't overly powerful. Did he kick all these guys' butts? Absolutely. But you could kind of tell he was struggling with the Darksaber, and that becomes a point later in this episode, which I think is great. But when I knew it was going to happen, but when all of a sudden that black blade comes up out of the hilt, I freaked out. I even went, ooh, I went like that. Lisa goes, are you okay? I'm like, Darksaber. It's cool. It's really cool. Darksaber's back.
It's cool. It's cool. Yes. What an incredible scene. I loved the way he dispersed the rest of the crowd, because it really shows once you kill the boss, the underlings run away, and he offered him, hey, take all the money you want.
Yeah, and that's how he was able to escape, was that. And can we talk about that escape? What city he escaped into?
You mean Halo Ring?
The coolest location I think I've ever seen in Star Wars. That was unbelievably beautiful. I'm obsessed with that planet Ring, whatever the heck that was.
Yes, so it's I want to talk even before we start about the Ring.
Yeah, sorry.
Bryce Dallas Howard.
Bravo, Bryce.
Bravo is the correct word. She just gets it. I think is the best way to say
today.
it. I think that's just the easiest way to say it. She just gets it.
I don't think it was you, Cliff. I saw somebody say, like, don't give Bryce Dallas Howard a Star Wars movie. Give her a series. Because I don't want it to be 2 hours and done. Like, I want 6-7 hours of Bryce's work, because she does fantastic. She next level directing on these Star Wars stories.
I think that would be good. Maybe she'll get pulled for the Acolyte. She could be the entire.
That'd be awesome. I'd love that.
I did send a tweet about I think she would be the best directing choice if they ever wanted to adapt the High Republic books.
I think that'd be cool
because she really has an eye for the beauty of Star Wars, and that's the whole point of those books, is really the beauty as well as the contrast of it. Right. Read the books; they're great.
They're fantastic. You didn't even get the new one yet, right?
No, it
comes out next week. Sorry,
in 4 days.
Yeah.
So I counting down. But no, she just did an incredible job. But the camera does pan, and we get to the ring world of Glavis. Which I made the Halo joke right away. I was like, oh my god, they brought a Halo ring. It obviously has more symbolism than that.
I got a message say, hey, I need to talk to you about something from one of my fraternity brothers. It's like, oh no, is everything okay? So I was like, yeah, what's up? He goes, can you tell Disney to stop just stealing Halo stuff? They have enough money. They're fine. They don't have to start stealing Halo stuff now. I started laughing.
Well, now that's Microsoft. I think Microsoft owns Halo. But Din is just limping through the city. We see all the way they go, and finally they come upon another Sabacc game, I believe. And they're going forth, throws the head. They go back and forth. He gets the information he needs. And then my favorite line in the whole thing, make sure to put that on ice as he walks away.
It's so funny. It was so classic Din. It was perfect.
And as we're going through, we go into the second major part as he finds the hidden Mandalorian enclave.
Yes.
And from what we find as he walks through literally no space. So if you've read the High Republic, you'll get that reference right away. But no, it's literally out in space. There is no bottom. It's just open space with an atmosphere. And we find the Armorer and Paz Vizsla, correct?
Paz, yeah.
Paz Vizsla. What a dick. They
that might have been one of the funniest lines of this podcast. Paz Vizsla, what a dick.
There you go. Cut that. So we go through and they talk about what's happening, how they're rebuilding. They are the last 3 left. They are the last 3 left of this clan. And honestly, I'll say good riddance in advance. But they're talking about it, and then the armor asks, what gave you such an injury? And he shows the Darksaber. Paz right away, you can tell right away conflict is ensuing because Paz knows exactly what it is right away. And we get more history in live action of the Darksaber, of how it belonged to the Mandalorian Jedi. I just had the name, Tar Vizsla.
Tar Vizsla, yeah.
And the importance of it, and how it's the true leader. If you win it in combat, you're the true leader of Mandalore. If not, it brings great shame on you, which is actually an excellent example for Bo-Katan.
And I think that's great, because I think that was what people focused a lot when Bo-Katan said that. I think it was must have been the season finale of season 2 of Mando. She said you have to win it, and people kept pointing out the fact that Sabine gave it to her and Rebels kind of thing. So it cleared that up, that okay, you can hand it to somebody and they can rule Mandalore, but bad things will happen to you. And that's exactly what happened to Bo-Katan, where she lost Mandalore again after the
cautionary tale.
Yeah, it really is. She was a cautionary tale, and the armor even says that. So I think that helped clear up any plot holes people thought were happening, even though they've clearly had this planned out and they understood what they would have had to have done here.
Yes, and from this, we get the first actual live action view of Mandalore in live action, and it's to see the genocide, the Night of 1,000 Tears, of them blowing up the main city that we see in the Siege of Mandalore, as well as them literally the Empire sending in robots to kill or at least reshoot every single Mandalorian that was killed in the bombing.
It was unreal.
Haunting. It was a very haunting scene.
Yeah.
And that kind of makes me guess in season 3 we're going to see more Moff Gideon flashbacks of the lead up to it. There's been some rumor about what Mandalorian season 3 will be, but we'll talk about that later. So they make even a joke about mythosaurs, and then finally there's the armorer says she's going to train Din with the Darksaber, but also they have a Beskar spear conversation. How it cannot be used, that weapon would never be made by a Mandalorian because it can literally kill a Mandalorian penetrating through Beskar.
I love that. I think that's a great like story piece that like the Mandalorians, yes, they use Beskar, but never for like the weapons. They're using it strictly for protection, defense kind of thing with armor because they don't want that to fall in the wrong hands to then be able to pierce one of their own with Beskar, which is obviously so like important to the Mandalorian people. So I thought that was a cool little touch, and they melt it. And it's for a foundling, baby Grogu.
Baby Grogu.
I really thought, Cliff, and I texted you this because I would go, "Oh my god, they're making little baby Mandalorian armor for Grogu." They did not do that, but that's where my head went. That they were gonna. That was enough to make
something for him.
I think it's a necklace. My guess is it looked like it was little chains, so I think it's gonna be a little chain necklace, maybe with like the Mudhorn sigil on it. That's on his pauldron from when they both defeated the Mudhorn together to get that egg for those off-world Jawas. That's my guess, but I was really hoping to be a little baby Grogu Mandalorian helmet because I would have freaked out and bought 20 of those Funko Pops.
Oh, we know you would.
But imagine if he had little ear slits too for his little ear. Oh man!
Rather than have ear slits, or it's gonna cover his ears.
No, I need little ear slits. I need them. I need them.
But they go through. They melt down the. They melt down. R.I.P. Such short-lived the Beskar spear, but it's going to a better cause. And finally, the armorer is practicing with Din, fighting with the Darksaber, and we see a very interesting contrast to Sabine.
Yes,
where
I picked up on that right away.
Where Din tries to use his strength to overpower the sword, and he's not. That's not allowed. You need to follow with it. You need to listen to the sword, which Sabine was really easily able to do.
And Sabine says as much too. She's like, it's becoming easier to wield and easier to hold, and she feels more one with it because she was listening to the Darksaber, and Din was just like you said, Cliff, brute strength, and the Darksaber doesn't like that, and it was challenging him more, and it was like disobeying him more, and you could see how heavy that lightsaber was. And it got
really funny. I knew this was coming because they were practicing on open down into space, and Din goes for a swing and just goes huh, and just eats it down into the
Thank
abyss.
God for jetpacks.
And then he just slowly flies back up with his jetpack. But then this leads to a big breakout as Paz Vizsla says that he deserves that sword. And it's really, this to me, it was such a ridiculous thing because the whole conversation between the three of them earlier was how it's not given, it's not earned by anyone. You literally need to win this in battle.
From combat.
And Paz is literally like, hey, this is my family sword, I deserve it back.
Right.
And I'm like, that's literally not what this is. Right. That's not what this is.
No.
So a fight ensues. We get to see some old stuff. We see the shield.
Right. Have we seen that in live action?
No, that was the first time. She never used it, I don't believe.
The Funko Pop of her using it, I think, is a Clone Wars.
It's from the Clone Wars.
Yeah, so she never used that. It was cool to see.
We also see the Vibro sword get absolutely wrecked the Vibro blade, which is really interesting because that was a big issue that that George Lucas had. He didn't want a lot of things to be able to counter lightsabers. Yeah. So I kind of liked how they kind of cut that through where the Vibro swords are strong but not strong enough.
Right.
And finally, as this fight goes through, Din does win, and before he can kill Paz, which I didn't think he was going to do, the armorer stops him. They have the whole spiel about, did you take off your helmet? Mando fumbles and pretty much admits it. And in a really stupid thing.
I mean, pretty much. He does admit it. He's like,
he does admit it, but he fumbles as well. He's like, am I then a lie? And they kick him out of the clan. And I'm like, well, you're not surviving now. And it's pretty much like, you're not a real Mandalorian anymore. You need to bathe in the caves underneath Mandalore that have been destroyed.
The mines of Mandalore.
So it's pretty much like oh well, and I'm like, he has the dark saber. He's
Well,
literally.
so the way I took it as he said, like all those mines got blown up, like during the Night of a Thousand Tears kind of thing.
Mhm.
I still think maybe there's like one left. There's no way he's just not a Mandalorian anymore. Like I think that the big part of season 3, if we don't see finding Grogu here now in Book of Boba Fett, that's gonna be a big part of it, obviously, and him trying to find somewhere where he can atone and become a Mandalorian again, because he does take that stuff seriously. Even though, yes, he took the helmet off, he understands that I think he's at peace with, like, yeah, I did that because he took it off twice. He did it once to get information when he went in with Bill Burr, whose name I can't remember in the show right now. So Bill Burr,
Space Boston.
Yeah, Space Boston. When he went in to basically infiltrate that remnant Imperial camp to get more information about where he could find Grogu, or Moff Gideon to find Grogu. And then obviously he took it off in the most heartbreaking scene of all time in Star Wars, where he took off his helmet just to look at Grogu's eyes one more time, and before he went to Luke. And I'm sad now.
Now you're sad.
Now I'm sad. I miss my guy.
We'll see him eventually. So from this, Mando decides to leave the floating Halo ring and boards a commercial fighter and gets TSA pre-checked, which was one of the funniest scenes because he no longer has a Razor Crest, and he makes his way back to actually Tatooine, where of course he does. But I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense why he goes there. They have some really cute. Oh, go ahead.
I think that's the first we've seen, like, I don't know what they're called, but a Rex droid. I call it Rex because that's what the droid is from Star Wars. Mm-hmm. I think that's the first time we've heard one talk in live action, and it was wonderful, and my heart was really happy.
I think so. Yeah, it made me crack up. That whole scene did. But as he's on the flight, he's literally just sitting. Makes some interesting eye contact with a kid Rodian, and then that makes him think of Grogu. And when he looks down at the stuff he made for him, it looks like a little Grogu head.
It's very cute.
It was great. So we get to Tatooine, and we end up back at Peli Motto's shop. Yeah. She's hunting a Womp Rat with multiple droids, and one of the droids there is a BD unit. And if you don't know what a BD unit is, it is the unit that is a secondary character in Star Wars Fallen Jedi.
And if we want to talk about character growth and character development, and we say, okay, Boba Fett has a great character development, look no further for the greatest character development in probably cinematic history. As at one point, Din looks at that little thing and says, "Thanks, little buddy." And we know he hates droids, and now he's friendly with droids to the point where he's even saying, "Thanks, little buddy." It's a cute little BD unit, and I'm very happy we saw one in live action because my heart was so happy seeing it.
People wonder if that means Cal might be showing up eventually. I think that could mean something. I mean, it's very easy to, because Caleb, I think it's Moynihan, is literally the concept design for him. So it's pretty.
He did like the.
He did the motion capture. He was the motion capture and rendering. So I think it'd be pretty easy to. But the Womp Rat gets Pele.
Gets Pele so bad.
And Mando saves her. And she makes a joke of, "Oh, nice entrance." And they go back and forth, and he asks if she has the Razor Crest for him. She does not. She has a modified Naboo Royal Guard N1 Starfighter, the nice yellow ones from Episode 1.
Real quickly, she also says some pretty derogatory things, though, because she's like, "Where's my little guy? Why'd you get rid of him? We could have opened up a petting zoo for baby Grogu." It was funny, but also,
she would have made a lot of money.
Yes, they could have made. I made $25 a pop of these things. You kidding me? That's thousands. There's probably $1 million worth of Grogu merchandise that's been sold.
Already. Million credits. So they go back and forth. Din is like, "I do not want this. This is literally a fighter pilot." But she does her best used car salesman. But it's not even ready. She needs to actually build it. So Din warms up, and they literally do a let's build a ship montage.
But it was great.
It was fun.
That sounds like it would be terrible, like television. It was perfect because you had Pele being funny. You're getting to see Din. Din is interacting with the droids. The droids are hilarious. If you just say, "Oh, there was like a droid shipbuilding montage," you'd be like, "Oh, crap." No, it was actually good and helped with the story, I thought. I really appreciate it.
It did, and they actually really showed, it was really accurate to the model the Naboo fighter was.
Yeah.
Fun fact, those Naboo fighters can actually achieve light speed without. They're probably one of the smallest ships that can achieve light speed But as they're going through, as they're building stuff, he needs certain parts, and Peli talks about how she used to date a Jawa. They were furry, but she would give them deals. They'd find her whatever she needs, and she'd let him rummage around in the dumpster.
My favorite running joke was that Peli was like, "Listen, they get the stuff done. Don't ask them," kind of thing. And then finally Din's like, "Okay, where did you find this one?" And she goes like, "Do you really want to know?" She actually does the Jawa language. The Jawas tell him like, "Oh yeah, we stole it from the Pikes basically, and did all this." And Din's like, "Oh, you guys just do that job or whatever." And then he gives them money, and then Peli's like, "You're gonna spoil them. Relax with the money. Relax with the credits. There, too much, Din, too much."
Yeah. So they finish the montage. There's no more yellow left on this modified. It literally Din tricked out a Honda Civic. It's really the only way I can explain this.
My favorite aspect of the ship is there's nowhere to put an R2 unit. There's a little glass bubble. And all I want in this life, Cliff, is I want Din to drive this fighter, and I want Grogu in that little like space bubble where the droid would go. That would make my life. Give me all the Funko Pops. Give me all the paintings, the drawings. That's going to be the cutest freaking thing in the entire world if Grogu just popped up there like a little droid would be.
Oh, yeah. So finally, they take a test flight. It's a one-man fighter with a Grogu, with a spot for Grogu, and he takes it. We hope he takes it for a ride. And he goes through Beggar's Canyon. He goes through everything, and finally he flies up into space. And he actually finds the cruiser that he was on, that he took, and he sees the Rhodian waves and everything. And as he's flying around, and this thing handles beautifully, it moves well. It was really cool to see Beggar's Canyon. All this,
yeah.
He gets pulled over by the New Republic, and again, it's our good old buddy, Captain Carson Teva, who will actually be playing Uncle Iroh in the Netflix live-action adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I did see that, actually.
And Lieutenant Reed, as they're going back and forth. But an interesting fact, Lieutenant Reed, the other X-Wing pilot, is Max Lloyd-Jones, who got to actually have his face.
He has his own character. It's pretty cool.
He finally has his own character, as in the last season of The Mandalorian, he was Luke Skywalker.
Very cool.
So
very, very cool.
Cool thing. So as they're going through, Teva kind of figures out, he knows who it is. He knows it's Din as he's going, and they kind of say, "Oh, license and registration. Oh, where's your signal? All this." And finally, Din was like, "Nope." But he presses the accelerator button and just zips away, evading police. And in the funniest thing, they were like, "Should we follow him?" He goes, "Do you really want to write that report?" No, you don't.
Do that all day. Write reports. Nope, we're good.
I'd be the same way. I want to fly. So finally, he makes it back. He's very excited about this ship he now has. And then Peli tells him that someone's here for him. Do you want to add anything about the ship before we?
It was sick. Beggar's Canyon with that ship. I think it was cool for a couple reasons. One, because like obviously Anakin went through there on the pod race, but then two, it was cool because like it wasn't just any ship he did; it was a Naboo fighter. So the fact that like you have like the Padme Anakin kind of connection there, I thought it was kind of cool. It wasn't a big deal, but I was just like, oh, that's kind of special, I guess.
It's a small universe.
Yes,
it's a small universe. So Peli says someone asked for him, but she turned her away. And then we find out that it is Fennec Shand looking for Mando for a job for Boba Fett. Passes him a thing of credits, and he actually looks at it, passes it back, and says, "You know what? This one's on the house." So they have one part of the muscle,
but he has to go find somebody first. So that leads me to my question, Cliff: are we seeing this little lovely boy next week?
I'm gonna say no.
I am too, and that's gonna. But here's the thing: I think maybe yes, because how pissed off would Star Wars fans be if you give them that little hint, like, "Oh my God, Grogu might come," and then he's not there next week?
How about this? This is what I was thinking of. What if, so we have 2 episodes left of this show.
Do we see Grogu at all?
What if he actually doesn't go to see Grogu next episode? He actually just goes right to Boba Fett's palace.
After he sees Grogu?
And the end credit scene of Book of Boba Fett, at the end of episode 7, is Grogu and Din putting whatever he has on Grogu and visiting him. I think that would be better. It being the end credit scene.
I think he'll come back having seen Grogu, so like this, it'll basically be like episode 5, Mandalorian season 2, episode 7 of Book of Boba Fett. And I think the end credit scene is going to be like the ship flying down to wherever Luke is training these students, and Grogu looking up to see the ship landing. And I think that will be the end credit scene of 7. I just need one second of this little guy, please, before season 3. I love this little guy. I love Din Djarin. Din Djarin is becoming one of my favorite. Is becoming probably my favorite Star Wars character.
You need your fix.
It's like Luke, Obi-Wan, Din Djarin, I think, right now.
Okay.
This show is awesome.
I think there's a lot of story left to tell. That's what I'll say.
What's nice is like I think people were really hyped up about this episode. Obviously, we were Cliff. We're talking about it. We're hyping it up. I'm sure people listening to this are hyped up about it. It got to the point with usually my brother-in-law texts me after every episode. He called me. I was like, "Hey, is everything okay?" He goes, "Yeah, everything's fine." He goes, "I couldn't text about this episode. I needed to call. I needed to talk to you directly. We just watched it. It was we just had like a nice conversation." So bringing families together this episode is really great.
Yes, and I will say, actually, I see it right now on my Twitter timeline. Bryce is coming back for season 3 of The Mandalorian. We don't know for how much, but it is going to be great. What an episode! As Grogu's hands are up in the air, he's waving them like he just doesn't care. And I know this is one of the ones. This is one of those rare, like, oh, I'll give it a 10 out of 10. And
this
I'm excited to rewatch
this is up there for me with the season 2 finale. This is up there with me with like the bar to reach for Star Wars television. Like this was awesome. Awesome storytelling. The fact that they were able to tell all these story beats to reintroduce Din back into this world after not seeing him since 2020. I think it was his last episode. Maybe it was right around 2021, early on. But bring him back, told a great story in just 50 minutes flat, and gets you excited for the rest of Book of Boba Fett, but also season 3 of Mando. I think they just did a fantastic job, knocked it right out of the park.
They did, and honestly, I'm gonna go back to one more thing about the Boba Fett. So I see Boba Fett, the Book of Boba Fett, as an interlude. It's like a break in the action to get you ready for something new. That's how I see it. This glances back. We can look at Book of Boba Fett as 2 stories now after this. We see the first part, which is the story of Boba Fett. Now, what we're seeing in these last 2 episodes is going to be the fight for Tatooine.
Yeah.
And that's the way. It's a really interesting storytelling thing, and I think it's not going to be appreciated until it's finished. And I think that's okay, because that, like we said, people are a little too crazy. I think Netflix did a really bad thing a long time ago, releasing everything at once.
But see, I
fall victim to it, and I fall victim to it. I binge watched The Witcher, like straight up. Like in like one day, I watched the entire show, and I can tell you, I only remember like half of it. I can tell you every single thing that happened in the past 5 weeks of Book of Boba Fett, though.
But here's the thing, I disagree with that. I think Disney is helping to switch that back.
They're helping to switch it back.
We've done good with Mando. We've done good with WandaVision. All the Marvel
people
shows
are still ridiculous when it comes. It's this whole like. I'm honestly surprised Netflix has not given into what Disney has done, or at least do like half and half. Like I'm shocked that they're still just doing media dump on one day.
I like what Prime does. Like, so I don't know if anybody else that's listening to this listens or watches Critical Role, which is like a D&D like phenomenon kind of thing, podcast video thing. But they just released the first 3 episodes of their animated show about like the first campaign that they did, and I think that's cool because it's like, okay, you get a nice mini binge, and then week to week after that. I like that kind of model where, and kind of like what WandaVision did. We got the first, and so did Hawkeye. We got the first 2 episodes. Great, got a nice little mini binge there, and then you get the rest one by one.
Yes, I think that's the way it should be. And I'm saying like we're still in the mindset of Netflix. Yeah. I'm not ragging on Netflix because some people like watching stuff in a binge. I think we're starting to move. When Netflix first came out, it made sense. Netflix was one of the first streaming services. It made sense to give media in a different way to grab you. We're approaching this weird little... This isn't me like old man yelling at the clouds thing. This is just like what's happening. We're moving to a stance where streaming services are overtaking live TV in a lot of sense. Obviously, you still have live sports. You have all this. But Hulu has live sports. You have this thing where television is switching to online. So now the thing is, like, Disney's like, we're going to keep it our way that we've always done it. Once a week, you get it once a week, and that's that. Where Netflix is still pushing it out. But it's weird because now Disney is starting to catch them in ratings, or they're outperforming Netflix. So it's becoming this really interesting little battle. And as streaming becomes the main option, it's going to be interesting to see kind of who wins in this stance. Because we know that Netflix has been having a lot of monetary issues in the past X amount of years. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out and who wins. Obviously, stingy me says, "Oh yeah, do it the Netflix model. Give us everything now," but you won't appreciate what it is as much.
I like the week by week. I didn't think I would, but I really enjoy it.
It gets you something to look forward to. Talk about it, and you got something to look forward to.
You don't have to worry about spoiling anything as long as you wait 2 days. You don't really have to worry about spoiling anything, because it's not like you're spoiling a whole season. You're talking about one episode. You get a whole week to talk about it. It's great. Then you get to talk for 4 days after the episode. You're talking about how awesome that was. Then the next 2-3 days, you're like, okay, this happened this last 4 episode. We just talked about this for a little bit. What's gonna happen next this Friday? Like, oh my god, tomorrow's the night. It's coming out, kind of thing. So it's great.
Exactly. So that's our little spiel as we end the episode.
One more thing.
Go ahead. I was gonna ask you one last thing.
We said we both agree we're gonna see Grogu at some point.
I don't think we'll see him till the last episode. I'll happily be wrong. I think we will.
Do you think we'll see Grogu's lightsaber this season?
I don't think this season of Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
I think it would be still too early, personally.
My little mind where I was talking about oh, he looks up. I would love it if he's training with a lightsaber.
That'd be cool.
Lightsaber so bad.
That'd be
cool. I hope
it's
not green. I want him to have a purple or blue lightsaber.
We'll see.
Just to be different.
Just to be different. Maybe even white.
That'd be sick.
So there's all these things. But no, this was an absolutely incredible episode. I'm excited to talk about the 6th chapter next week. Do we have any guesses who's going to be there? I don't think we're going to see any more recruiting. I think it's just going to be the rest of his muscle is there.
Yeah, I'm done with Cad. Cad Bane's not coming in this.
Oh, next episode's the Dave Filoni episode.
I gave up on it.
I'm going to say Bosk. I'm still going to say Bosk. That's my guess. That's my answer. That's my answer, Alex. Final guess.
I don't think we're going to see any. The only character I think we'll see, if anything, we'll see Din again, and I think we'll see Grogu, maybe.
Okay. But for that, Cam, where can they find you and the podcast on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at CamRamos95. You can find the podcast on Twitter at Stream the Mouse, on Facebook and Instagram at Streaming with the Mouse. You can find us on our website, cprob.com/streamthemouse. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and our YouTube channel. Make sure to search for Streaming with the Mouse podcast. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe, 5 stars, all the above, so people can listen to us. And Cliff, where can they find you if they want to talk about how cute Grogu is?
And you can find me at CP Robinson81. So for Cam, we will see you next week. If you live in New England, get your shovels ready, or you'll be listening to this one you might be shoveling. So sorry about that. But we will see you next week, everyone. May the Force be with you.
This is the way, baby.